Hey, y'all, welcome to CrossPolitic on the Fight, Laugh, Feast Network. Pastor Toby Chalk Knocks on the water boy. And we got Pastor Jacob Reaume in the studio from Canada. So this is kind of like a Make America Christian Again show and Make Canada Christian Again show.
Look at that.
What's up?
MCCA.
You didn't see that coming. No, you didn't.
No, Gabe, we did not. You're right.
No.
They're both orange.
Oh, wow.
That's Protestant orange.
Yes, it is. That's
Totally
right.
Protestant
100% Protestant orange,
Yeah.
not Catholic, okay?
Yeah.
No Catholics allowed.
Catholics can't wear orange in our hood.
I mean, they can hang out, but
Yeah, we're cool.
We're just
cool.
like
They'd have to bring the whiskey.
we're just not putting them in the driver's seat.
Make things right, yeah.
Born and raised in Guelph. I just like saying that word. Guelph. Do you like saying that word
Guelph.
sometimes?
Yeah.
When's the last
where's
time
Guelph?
you been back to Guelph?
Last time I was there,
Yeah.
last couple months.
Oh.
It's 20 minutes down the road from me. Half an hour.
Ontario?
I thought it was like a different country.
No.
Born in Guelph. Jacob Reaume holds a Master of Divinity from the Southern Baptist Theological Seminary in Louisville, Kentucky.
Okay.
You and Moeller, and pretty close, no?
Sure.
Okay, all right. He became pastor of Trinity Bible Chapel in August 2009, and then, it doesn't say this, but in 2020, he stood up to the Canadian Gestapo.
Yeah.
And Jacob's married to his high school sweetheart, Joanna. Together they have 6 kids and
A grandchild on the way.
on the way.
Man.
Congrats.
That's awesome.
You know it's going to be a Christian, right?
I pray.
Just saying.
So there you go.
That's it, Knock. That's all you got to say.
I think he said it all.
Clip that. All right. Good. So what do you got for us, Gabe?
Yeah, so.
Any other surprises up your sleeve?
No.
Please no
That's-
more.
That's it. You know, does America want a king or a constitutional republic?
Oh.
Apparently, no, we'll get to you in a minute. So, Bukele, is that how you pronounce it, Bukele? He's the president of El Salvador. Is that it? I mean, don't laugh if you got something better than me, all right?
Just keep saying. Actually, maybe we ought to say it. I mean, because isn't it Bukele?
There's a K in it. Yeah, Bukele.
Huh.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Because we're going to talk about somebody for like an hour.
And we're just going to be saying Bukele.
It's like we don't know what he's talking about.
I was on a conference call, a Zoom conference call, and the guy had logged in on his wife's Zoom, and Jennifer's name was there, and so I had everybody on the call calling him Jennifer because we couldn't. So, anyways, Bukele, no, and so Bukele in El Salvador, he's the president. He's kind of come in and taken this third world country, high crime third world country, egregiously high crime third world country, and apparently has cleaned up a lot of the crime. At least that's what's being reported. And 2 weeks ago, I actually retweeted an article about him where he had worked with his legislative system, whatever that is there, and he got rid of term limits for presidents and turned the presidential term from a 4-year term into a 6-year term.
Okay.
And I retweeted. I was just like, this is not good. That's all I retweeted. And then apparently, this is kind of a waking up moment to me, or maybe an educational moment for me, but apparently kind of like some of the dank far right, of Christian nationalism or whatever.
We like to refer to them as the based.
The based far, no, because based means cool. They came after me and said, why do you have a problem with a Christian king? Yeah. So they took my comments as being against kings, being against Christian kings. And I'll just throw out this comment here. We can talk about it later. But I think you can actually argue from scriptures for a constitutional monarch or some sort of constitutional republic. I think there's a biblical foundation for both those options. But anyways, they came after me and said, you're against the king? You're against the Christian king? And my comments are actually more about this third world president turning his country around in about 4 years, because he's been there for 3-4 years, turning this country around in 3 or 4 years from a very high crime country into apparently a low crime country, as is being reported, without repentance. That's what my real comment was getting at. This is not good. And because if you ever seen a third world country turn things around in 3 or 4 years, and the president, I can't see a president not doing that without him being some sort of tyrant himself. In fact, I've talked to guys on the ground in El Salvador, some of our audience and listeners on the ground in Salvador, or have friends and family on the ground. in El Salvador, and they said, he is. What we're nervous about is we don't know who all he's arresting. We think he's actually arresting some good people too as part of this. So he's getting rid of the bad guys, but he's also, maybe getting rid of some political pushback too at the same time. This kind of stuff, and so I don't see how Bukele did what he did without himself, being a tyrant or going over and above their law and what's allowed to get this turnaround without repentance, really without repentance. But apparently, what really became awkward to me and almost laughable in this whole situation, I had a bunch of American Christian dank nationalists come after me and basically wanting and arguing for a king. And I was like, you guys are Americans, right? You left Great Britain, right? King George, right? Your problem was with King George.
No king but Christ.
No king but Christ, King George. And then you came over here, left that monarch situation. He came over to America and you established a republic. And now we got all this kind of Christian right nationalists apparently wanting a king. And I remember I've had some of my friends, and I remember even Andrew Isker saying he wanted a dictator. He had no problem with some sort of dictatorial king, Christian king.
Who said this?
In our nation, Andrew Isker. He had no problem with some sort of dictatorial Christian king in our nation. So apparently, this is a real thing and a real desire amongst kind of the dank Christian right that they want to get back to some sort of kingly, beloved Christian dictator kind of situation to turn around America.
Constantine.
That
fixed everything.
Yeah. Well, King George didn't fix anything, so we're here. But I think there's a lot going on in this conversation, and honestly, I think we need to be thinking clearer about how we fix our nation, and not just. I mean, Samuel chastised Israel for calling and wanting a king. I think for the very same reason that the dank Christian nationalists right want a king, because they think it's actually going to fix our problems, and like other nations. That's what was in Samuel, like other nations. And that's why I think, they don't like the presidential bureaucracy, and I have problems with all this stuff too. The bureaucracy is the biggest problem in changing our nation. But so I just wanted to lay that out there. And you think of the socialism that's growing in the Democratic Party. I just wish Democrats would just be honest and just say, yeah, we're socialists and we want socialism and we want to control the grocery stores and all that stuff. We just need to be fully honest about all that kind of stuff. And then you have I'm throwing out a big topic here. And then you have with the immigration and everything that's going on, the illegal immigration, Trump shut that down pretty tight now. But we have senators and legislators in our nation who are, naturalized citizens or whatever. They weren't born in the country, or their parents weren't born in the country, and then they came here and their parents had them here, whatever situation is. You have this immigrant or a child of an immigrant coming to our nation, and now are getting legislative legal power in our nation. And there's this lady, where was she? From Illinois. She's from Illinois, and she was born in Guatemala. And she said, this is just like last week, she said that I am first a Guatemalan and second an American. Oh. And I'm like, that's treason. That's just straight up. Like, get her. Yeah, there you go. The B covered it. To me, it's like, yeah, you should lose your citizenship, especially as a political leader, and leave our country and be kicked out.
Who's that other guy?
That's Babylon B's edit to it. He's got a cigarette and a beer can in his hand, and so they're just making fun of it. That's all.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
It's not complicated in the picture.
And I'm just like he's the more worrisome guy.
So, but ultimately, he's like, no, not her.
That's George Washington, guys.
With a beer.
Oh.
The beer can
telling
looks
her to
upside,
get lost, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, got it. That's
the beer can,
AI George Washington.
Yeah.
And the beer can kind of looks upside down. It looks like some sort of AI beer can upside down. Anyway.
Sorry, AI.
Yeah.
It's not that good.
Yeah. So, but I think the conversation over monarch, constitutional republic, or Christian constitutional monarch versus constitutional republic, I think that's a legitimate debate. But I don't want a king like other nations, which seems to be what everyone's arguing for. Some sort of dictatorial, beloved, Christian king. That I don't think we want to have anything to do with that in this country. So Jacob is from Canada, and who's the leader of Canada? It's a monarch.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I would be the head of state.
You be the head of state.
So just you don't want a king like other nations, but I think the key phrase is like other nations, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But you don't want a democracy like other nations either.
No, I want a constitutional republic.
Right.
I despise what our nation's turned into. It's emphasized
Or a
democracy
republic
over
like other nations. You want the law of God to reign supreme, whether it's over the king, whether it's over the republic, whether it's over the Senate.
100%. And that's what happened in the kings in the Old Testament were supposed to be a constitutional monarch.
Right.
That's what it was. Deuteronomy, the law of God.
The law
they
of
had
God
to write it
reigns
on the house.
supreme.
They had to write it down. They had to memorize it. That kind of stuff.
What do you I mean, you are coming from a slightly different form in Canada. I mean, you have, there's some
Democratic elements.
There's some parallels, but how does this conversation strike you? How does this conversation strike you with the?
Well, Jacob wants Trump. So
Well, I think the key is I don't want a king like other nations, but before that statement, or I want a king like other nations, before that statement was made, God had already promised that Israel would have a king.
One day, yes.
in
right?
Deuteronomy.
Right? And we just don't want one like other nations. But I have no problem with a king that would uphold the law of God.
Yeah.
And I'd be quite happy with that. And so
would it be fair to say to you that that's a constitutional monarch is what you're saying? The law of God.
Well, he's a king that has to. So what's the Constitution, right?
Deuteronomy.
Well, I understand that, but some people think that the Constitution is we have to follow all of these procedures bit by bit by bit by bit. But then the law of God gets lost in the procedures. And so my mind immediately goes back to a historical figure who's played a role, by the way, in the development of both their constitutions, which would be Cromwell.
Okay.
Right? And so he did away for a number of years with Parliament in order to get his agenda passed, which was the peace, prosperity of England. And not just
was that a legal move? Was he allowed to do that under their constitution?
Well, he just did it. So I guess it depends on which lawyer you ask, right?
Yeah.
But he just did it, and it would be assumed that he would think he's operating constitutionally because the Parliament had become unconstitutional. Mm-hmm. But you had a man that he did not have the accountability of Parliament, but at the same time, he was able to uphold the law of God when Parliament wasn't, which did lead to the peace and prosperity of England. So I think there's times of crisis, personally, there's times of crisis where that might be a good idea, and I think probably today it is. I'm not commenting on your own situation. I'm commenting on my own. Yeah. And I think in my own country, I think it would be fine if we had someone like that. In fact, I've said so publicly. Yeah. But the key is he has to uphold the law of God, and we don't really have someone like by the time Cromwell rose to power, he'd already earned the reputation of someone who would do that and who could be entrusted with that level of power. And I don't think we have anyone on the scene at this point like that. So you'd have to be careful.
In Canada.
Well, Canada, yeah, right?
Whoa.
I mean, do you have anyone in America like that?
Yeah. No.
So, but there's, every now and then there's a turn in history where you have a constitutional crisis.
Yeah.
And you have two warring interpretations of what the Constitution is. And that was Cromwell's day. And I think if we had something like that at this point in time and we had someone who rose and had that type of power but upheld the law of God, I would have no problem with it because someone has to cut through all the bureaucracy that we have. So right now we might not have a king like other nations, but we certainly have a democracy or even a republic like other nations.
Yeah. I guess I'd want that defined really well because
Cromwell didn't have time to define it. It just had to happen. Right? It just like someone had to fill in the gap.
Right. And so then that justifies the next liberal who comes into power
to
declare a health emergency.
Which specifically happened.
And COVID happens.
Which happened with Cromwell when Charles II came in after he died and his son couldn't hold the reins, and Charles II came in and the thing basically went to hell for a while. And then after Charles II and James II, then they brought in an official constitutional monarchy when William of Orange came over and overthrew James II. So Cromwell kind of paved the way for William of Orange and the constitutional monarchy that followed. But I think Cromwell was a necessary figure in order to do that. And we're in a time of political turbulence. And if we have a Cromwell that rises right now, I think we'd be better off.
Yeah.
But as far as an ultimate dictator who rules by his own whims, I mean, you and I are both opposed to that because you're just jumping from the frying pan into the fire.
So you got a couple things going on here, as you're pointing out. I mean, one is, you can talk about this just in principle. So big picture, blue sky. What are the biblical principles we're given? And we have the law of God supreme overall. Mm-hmm. And then there is freedom given in Scripture to how we execute that law of God, how we organize a given civic polity. And And so there is room for a King Alfred. There's room for a Cromwell, as you say. There's a room for a William of Orange. You know, there's different setups, and there's also room for the American Republic. Which said we'll have an executive, but that executive is not going to, is going to serve for 4 years, and then and by precedent, George Washington explicitly stepped down after 2 because he didn't want it developing in sort of a monarchy. After two terms, he didn't want it to develop into a monarchical direction, and then by that precedent and honor of George Washington, it was 100 plus years where presidents only served maximum of 2 terms out of deference.
And then FDR came along.
Until FDR. And then after that, the Congress said, okay, only 2 terms. You have all of that sort of in principle, what's wise. So you have biblical law, certain requirements within biblical law, and then you've got prudence and wisdom that applies that based on probably the culture, history, and so we set up a particular kind of republic based on what had happened in England, and we were understandably very, very jumpy about the way that the king had broken his charters with us, and the Parliament had usurped authority that had been given to them, and so we wanted a bunch of checks and balances in a place that they didn't have in place then. I don't know enough about El Salvador to know necessarily, the history there and what is Bukele doing in this moment. I certainly have questions and wonder, and similar misgivings.
Well, and have you ever seen a third world country turn around in 4 years with it and it being a legitimate,
well, I think you could
reasonable process.
To go back to what I said, I think you could argue that Cromwell did that. Like England was in the tanks, and he turned it around fast, right? Within 2 or 3 years, he settled all the international problems. And England was prosperous. But again, what's the spiritual basis for Bukele's regime? And I don't know. He said, I listened to his interview on Tucker. He said he's a Christian and he prays, but you've said you think he's a Romanist.
Most people in my thread came back and said he's Catholic.
Right.
But even then, it's like, okay, what country, turns their country around and then also does this kind of kingly play where you get rid of terms and you get rid of like this 4-year process and you're now into 6 years. It's like that to me it makes me think of like Venezuela. I mean, it's down that way.
Is he a socialist though?
I don't know.
Yeah,
so, I mean, there's a little ignorance to me in my analysis.
Venezuela went down the tubes because they were socialists.
Yeah, well, yeah.
So I don't know if he is. I don't know if he is. I don't know enough about Bukele. He got rid of the gangsters.
My 30,000-foot view of what I see about a third world nation, and people are more than happy and excited to jump on that bandwagon without like proving, this guy's faith and this guy's, is he even doing it in legitimate ways, constitutionally?
Yeah, I mean, and I think you just have to. I think it's worth raising the question because I think you're right. I do think there are people who I think remember there's no situation so bad that you can't make it worse.
Yeah.
Right. And there's a significant temptation constantly when things are terrible to think anything will be better than this, which isn't always true. Right. Which it really can. I mean, it was bad in France, and it got worse. Like what they had, what they did was actually worse. Under Robespierre, that was not an improvement, but a lot of people went along with it because they thought it's anything would be better than this.
Yeah.
At the same time, what our founding fathers did was radical. Yeah. I mean, what they did was they said, this guy, he's broken his treaties. We have a right to change. That's what the Declaration of Independence said. There's a point at which we can change government, and we're going to do it now. Mm-hmm. Now, there's a difference between maybe doing it in a Congress and one guy at the top doing it, but I mean, he's working with a Congress of some sort. He's working with a parliament of some sort. Yeah. So I think it's good to be skeptical. Yeah. At the same time, I mean, I think the Cromwell example is an interesting one. I think you also look at the founding of our country and you say, there were a lot of people who thought that the founders of America were crazy. Yeah. That they were just revolutionaries. Now they weren't revolutionaries. They weren't like France. Right. Although there were some people that were influenced by that. Yeah. Thomas Jefferson was pretty friendly with France. Yeah, he was. Thomas Paine was pretty friendly. Yeah. But I think there really was a Christian core that held those extremes at bay. Yeah. And I think that's probably the biggest question that I don't know the answer to is Bukele is the law of God actually, even if imperfectly, the governing thing on this project?
Yeah.
Or is his prayer and spirituality just kind of religious dust that he's sprinkling on top of his work?
Well, and I guess to Jacob, this question here for you. I want things done through Reformation revival, and that doesn't mean we don't fight politically, but I would be very hesitant to jump over the wall as a I guess this would be a distinction between a revolutionary versus a reformer, and so. I'd have to think through Cromwell kind of thing.
But our founders declared war. I mean, they declared independence, and then when England invaded.
So how much of a base do you need for someone to seize power, though? So, for example, you look at a lot of the leftists that are governing right now.
Yeah.
So you pick a blue state, whatever, or Canada.
Yeah.
Right.
Blue state or Canada. Yeah.
So Canada, how many people are actually strongly in favor of some of the leftist policies? Maybe they have a base of 20 to 25% red meat type people. So how much Christian revival and conversions do you need before someone like a Cromwell has a base? And I think 20 to 25% is a pretty good base.
Stalin only needed 5%.
Well, there you go. So 5% you could do, but Stalin's means weren't exactly the most noble.
No.
Okay, but Cromwell had a civil war against the king and then oversaw the decapitation of the king, which was unheard of at that time.
Right.
People were aghast that would actually happen.
Yeah, interesting.
But the king broke the law. So the statement was, if you break the law and you're in government, you're dead. And so that's what happens.
Yeah.
And so nobody's above the law.
To me, it sounds like they're handling it in a constitutional way.
Well, it is a constitutional way, but it wasn't a written constitution. So my point is
well, again, that's why I would like our constitution to say the Bible is the highest law of the land, and so that moral code is required, and you could get punished for it. And then here's our secondary constitution.
Right. So my fear is people say constitutional. Well, we got to have a vote.
So Bill Clinton commits adultery with Monica Lewinsky. It's okay, he should die.
Huh. Well, sure. Right? Sure. Whatever. But when you say constitutional, some people hear, well, that means we got to have a vote. It's got to go through Congress and all this other stuff. But in my mind, if the word of God is supreme and it's Congress or the vote or all these the parliament, they're holding it up, then they're in disobedience and they're in violation of the Constitution. So now you have all of these parasites who are in the system who are slowing down or poisoning the cup in order to get their way. And they're using this whole process in order to drag us all down to hell. Yeah. And I think someone like a Cromwell right now, if he had the base, I don't know if the base is there.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's there in America. It's certainly not there in Canada.
Yeah.
But if he had the base, I think it would be a good thing.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's where the law of lesser magistrates kicks in for me.
That's right. And that's what Cromwell was. He was a parliamentarian.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
what is that? There's an Allstate commercial happening back there? Is that Bill? Bill, turn your phone off. That's all.
I want to know what Knox thinks. He's been very mysteriously quiet.
So I think part of the conversation is assuming that if we can fix the problem at the top, then we've solved all our problems in the mid and the bottom. And I think there is an error in the thinking for me. So
he took his glasses.
There is a fundamental thought process here that's if we can just get to the levers up there, if we can get to this structure, then we can force that lever down to have an effect on everyone else. And I don't know if God's world is functioning or designed that way necessarily. So the biggest ultimate problem that I would say that we have is, I was listening to David Bahnsen talk about this. So people are he was talking about markets and controlling markets, and this kind of this area where people are functioning in markets. It's not necessarily breaking the law. And so there's this kind of weird zone people are operating in where it's affecting all these other outcomes, but it's not necessarily breaking the law, and we wish we can get control of it. So we need to make a law to get to it. And he's it doesn't matter. There's always going to be something like that. And so at the end of the day, the fundamental problem you have is a moral problem. You can change the laws. You can manipulate the system as much as you want, but if you don't have a people that are designed and grown up to be moral and functioning more in a moral way, you're never going to be able to put a top-down system over them, and it doesn't matter what you do. And so I think I think the Bible, you can see this through scriptures too. You can have a point where, depending on the maturity of the people and the moral saturation of the people through the scriptures, that they are ready at different times for different things. Sometimes you have to have a Moses. There is no vote. God voted, I'm leading you out of here. And then you have a point, okay, that is done. Now we're on to another season. You're at the point now that you've learned and you're understanding the law. Now let's appoint elders and leaders.
Jethro
and
comes
people.
along. Yeah.
You have a process. And so a lot of the times I don't think people are taking into consideration actually where we are, or if we've actually suffered or struggled enough even to be able to have a Cromwell yet. I mean, and so hold on a second.
Yeah. Go.
There is simple things that we leave on the table that we're not willing to do because we're lazy and we want some sort of hero, savior, Superman to come in. And it's like, yeah, but you are getting exactly the very thing that you produce out of your morality
that
inside of your society. Right. And it doesn't matter if you voted for it or not, even as with the king, like you get the kind of people you're producing that people from you. So this is what you're going to get. Right. And so
home, it's where you build your legacy, where traditions are started, seeds are planted, meals are shared, and stories are told. We are Chris and Natalie Carpenter, owners of Story Real Estate, and our team of top agents helps people find homes in Moscow, Idaho, and around the country.
Have you thought about a move? Contact us to get connected with a top agent who shares your values and puts your family first. Or reach out to us about our Moscow relocation guide.
Wherever you're looking to go, we can help you find home. Call us at Story Real Estate or visit us at storyrealestate.com and start building your legacy.
There isn't a problem that we have in America that we can't fix right now within a 20-year change. I was just doing some looking up, and it's like anywhere between 3 to 6.7% of our children are in government schools. How many Christians make up America right now? Let's just say over 40%.
It would be more like a top would be like 70 million Americans are explicitly Protestant.
So we got 3.7 million
it's more
kids.
like 40 to 70 million, but out of 300 million.
So like there's nothing that we couldn't change really within 10 to 20 years off of some basic foundational biblical engagement within our own structures and families that would not have a massive guys in the last 5 years. And I'm not saying this to be arrogant at all, but in the last 5 years, watching just what our podcast has been able to do and the impact that it has that we don't even take into consideration is massive. Yeah. And we haven't tried. Like we haven't, like this is we sit here and we take for granted.
I just rolled in here, 20 minutes ago and sat down.
Yeah. And let alone that's how we treat our families too in the same way. And we just kind of say, oh, it's just, you're making the next economic foundation for America in your home.
That's right.
You can change this in 20 years. And you don't have to have a Cromwell. You don't have to have that. You haven't come. Part of it is that we really believe that we've come to that point where we got to have that. You haven't. Gabe's situation, being arrested, was horrible. Didn't like it. Felt the first time in my life ever, I felt like I didn't have any power. And yet, within 3 years, 2-3 years, you won your case. Yeah. Guys, we just don't know how to work.
But what's funny is we still have a bunch of liberals running our city.
Yeah.
So we still don't own the political power.
But the reason that we don't own it is because we really don't do I've heard Stephen Wolf said this, and I think he's so right. He said a lot of Christians think they're doing politics because they post on social media. They think they're doing politics because they complain. You're not doing politics. You're whining and complaining and praying to the wrong gods. Learn the system. Jeff Schaefer taught me this. There is a process that our government, our systems have that are built out, and we can change them. We don't like them. That's fair. But there's a process to go about things. We haven't even begun to try really going through the processes.
As
Give
Christians,
us a Cromwell.
As Christians trying to take over
Give
our
us
political
Cromwell.
system.
We need a king.
Yeah.
You haven't even begun to work the structures and the systems that God has given you right now. Like, come back to me after 30 years of that.
Yeah.
I remember the what's the book? It's called is it like Defending Revolution or something like that. Do you know what I'm talking about? There was a book about the American Revolution and how it was Protestant resistance theory that drove the American.
Yeah, I read that book.
Do you remember what's called?
Yeah, I think it's called Defending the Revolution.
Defending Revolution or something like that.
Didn't we
had that guy on.
about that. Yes.
Remember we had him on. It was during the dust storm.
Is it Justifying the Revolution?
Oh, Justifying
There we go.
Revolution. That's what- Thank you.
Yeah, he's from
Justifying
Colorado Christian University.
Yeah, and it was a really great book.
Yeah.
But one of the things I remember about that book is how he traced the fact that there were pastors in Boston standing up to British tyranny in the 1670s and 80s.
Wow.
100 years
Wow.
before the revolution.
Yeah.
And so to your point, though, Knox, it struck me then. I thought, oh, and I actually literally thought, I think I read this right during COVID or right after or something like that. And I was thinking to myself, I wonder if, this is the beginning of something a lot longer.
Yeah.
We need to fight. We need to resist.
Yeah.
We need to, have those kids, raise them in the Lord, send them out, have them start businesses, have them get involved in the political process and so on, and be faithful in their families, faithful in their churches, faithful in their cities, and resist tyranny, resist corruption, all of that.
Yeah.
And at different points, there really are moments where you have to make a decision. Like, are we going to jump over the wall or not? Are we going to go do a psalm sing protest? Are we going to disobey the king's decree? Are we going to whatever? And you don't know what that's going to do. You don't know if that, is this the beginning of changing the whole regime? Is this a revolution? Or am
I going to die?
Or am I going to die? Or is it just going to kind of be like what happened in our town? Like they arrested you and then we never saw another cop in public for the rest of COVID. Enforcing any COVID regulations. They kept on passing the regulations and they stopped enforcing them. And it was like this quiet, sheepish, okay, fine, you win.
Yeah.
But so I think we don't know what it's going to take, whether it takes a Cromwell, whether it takes a George Washington, whether it takes a Constantine, or whether a lot of history is just ordinary people working at stuff and slowly changing things.
I think there's also something else at play here. And I think, we're going to have Chad Jackson's going to be in town with Jeff Durbin. We're going to be talking. That's this Friday?
Friday night?
Friday, literally.
And one of the things that's happened, and it's been amazing to watch, is how that communism plays both sides against the middle. And it does it in order to squeeze out any sort of trust for the institutions so that we can have a new order lead. It's interesting that Democrats and Republicans, if you remove their stripes, almost sound the same as they talk about the institutions. It doesn't work. It's broken. There's no justice.
So if I may say, just to what you're saying, and push back gently on it, David.
Or you can push back hard if you want.
I'm a grown
That's
man.
your show. So, but I do think that the law is a teacher for the ungodly.
I do believe
it's
that
useful
too.
for the ungodly. And so
Absolutely.
one of the problems that we have at the moment, if we're going to read the Times, is that the law has been so corrupted in the land that the ungodly operate with impunity. They're fearless and they are bold in their disobedience. And so
I agree with everything you're saying.
Right. So a Cromwellian figure, if he has a solid base, will use the law to teach the ungodly that they are ungodly so that they will fear their sin. I mean, there are radical changes under his reign, very, very quick, that a lot of the people did not welcome and were not ready. There was a contingency of the British Isles that were ready, but there was a lot of people that were not ready and hated him. In fact, within his own coalition, he had the Levelers, who were borderline communists. They were sexually immoral. And once he won the Civil War, he had to drive the Levelers out of his coalition because he wanted nothing to do with them, and he saw the problems that they were causing. So I think political power, if it's used properly by a solid minority, which Cromwell did effectively, there can be a lot of long-term good that's done. And maybe that's not what you're arguing against.
I'm not arguing against it. I like Cromwell. John Owen's my guy.
Right. So
he rode with Cromwell the whole time.
But I think there's more to it. I'm just saying that I think there's more to it than grassroots reformation. There has to be grassroots reformation, and that's what I'm laboring for. But there has to be political power that's operated.
My point is, we have access to political power, and we act like we don't.
Well, do you?
Yes, we do.
Have you organized?
Absolutely.
Because I know people that have organized and the political power isn't being used properly because the bureaucracies are so corrupt, the media is so corrupt. It's very difficult to get in power because the media is so biased against them. So but maybe in your context it does. I'm not seeing it in my context.
Yeah, I'm saying you live in Canada. I feel bad for you.
Right. It's
You're welcome to come over here. People just jumping the border fence in the South if you want to come.
They're still doing that.
Well, few people.
Yeah. So anyway, that's my point. Is I do think the government has a responsibility, and they will teach the people righteousness if they use the political power to crush the wicked.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. I totally agree with it. And I think that we can start doing that. But I'm saying we don't even try and do it in the very local levels that we're at. This is what I think Stephen Wolf was getting at. Like, we have levers of power to use and to operate, but we don't do it. We're being ruled by bramble bushes because we choose not to actually rule, right? And so in one sense, I'm saying we don't have to have a Cromwell that comes in and goes and takes out the president and restructures everything. I'm saying in one sense, we have Cromwellian attitudes and functions all inside of American society if we were just to operate.
Right.
Like, just to operate basically.
I just like
liberals have done this. Like, this is so important. Yeah. Liberals have done this over not just last week. Most of us have just woken up to this in the last 5 years.
True.
Liberals have been after this for hundreds of years, right? Like, they knew where to come in the 1920s in America.
John Dewey. Well, before that, John Dewey.
They knew where to come in for the education system. They were playing a long game, and they didn't just get here overnight. It didn't just happen in 2016. It didn't just happen in 1964, right? It happened long before that set the stage for that. We're not willing to play that game. A lot of us are willing for something way more radical to happen instead of saying, okay, what's the next 100 years looks like? What does the next 150 years looks like? Because this is my point in bringing up Gabe's situation. The law worked. Like, the process really worked. It really does work.
But when Trump ran for president, didn't
he won the second term. The third time he ran, he ran again.
I think he won the second term. I
believe he won the second term too.
I agree with you.
But if they were so powerful and so successful, he never would have been able to win the third one.
So I think you're very blessed in that regard, and that you have a court system that's in your favor.
That's right. That's why I'm thinking we're different.
If Trump hadn't got in the first term and got the justices in that he did, you might be in a very different situation.
Mm-hmm.
It's possible. I still think that we have.
You guys, in your situation, you guys were operating illegally during COVID, and you got a bunch of fines. Were you arrested? I don't know. I don't remember if you were arrested. No. Okay. But you racked up fines.
Millions.
And what happened to those fines?
So all of our elders, myself included, and our church racked up millions, and then eventually we had to pay about $250,000
each, or just total.
What happened to all the rest of it?
That's what it was. So the courts just declared you're paying this, and that's what we paid. No, I will say this to your point.
But I'm just saying
that's not something to be overlooked.
I guess I just wanted to. Yeah, I'm just curious. Like I didn't know the answer honestly, but I'm just saying, like, it sounds like, that's $200,000 is not nothing. I don't want to minimize it.
It's a lot,
but it's not Canadian dollars.
Okay, so $200 American dollars, something like that.
Yeah. But that's different than millions. That's something.
So I don't know.
No, he still had to pay the fine.
I don't know what's going to happen next time.
Yes.
But I do think that our very public stand taught the community something and taught the government something.
Yes.
So you won in court with your issue.
I did. Federal court, not Idaho court.
So after our second contempt of court conviction, the police just decided to leave us alone. So we operated illegally and in against our court order. We had court orders against us. So they could have got us contempt of court again.
Wow.
We operated illegally for probably at least a year against our court order after that.
Right.
But the police would get calls and they'd say, we're not visiting that church anymore.
Wow.
So I do think that taught.
And you won.
Well, I think that won. That taught them something.
Right.
But the COVID spread still happened, right?
But I guess
the COVID spread still happened. Right?
Yeah.
But I guess part of my
I didn't do one funeral for that whole time. Not one.
I guess but my point though is like, I think it is worse there.
I think it's worse.
But I guess I want to say, but that's different than you actually being hauled off to prison like Wang Yi in China and not being
for 9 years.
For 9 years.
No, we had it easy compared to the Chinese or the North Koreans.
But my point is to Knox's point that, like, I think that means though that it still worked. Like, your system is maybe more busted than ours
to a degree,
but it worked. Like, your faithfulness taught them something, and they were like, "Yeah, we don't want to deal with that."
To a degree, yeah.
I mean, that's
So I guess what does that
agree,
mean,
but
Toby?
But that's different than, I guess, I'm just saying that's different than them sending the troops in and firing on you people. That's different than them hauling you off to prison.
That Jacob's response is commensurate with what's going on in his government? Is that what you're arguing?
Yeah.
Because if they're coming at guns, then it's a different response.
Right. But my point is I guess I'm amen a little bit what Knox is saying is that like
You still have levers.
you still have levers. Your levers maybe not as high up on the totem pole, so to speak.
Right.
To mix all kinds of metaphors, but totem pole levers.
Okay.
but you have like I'm just saying what you were able to do was able to work.
I think it worked for a lot of good.
Yeah,
I do.
I agree.
I believe socially. I believe in government. I think it gave them a.
Yeah.
They don't want to do that again. A lot of them.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Like,
I think
they
it
know you.
riled people up. For example, the truckers. I think the pastor sent an example for them, and a year later they came in. And, you know, and I honor them. They're almost like angels from heaven. They put an end to this thing.
Right.
Right. But I do think maybe we agree. Maybe we agree. I do think that there is a place for a someone call him a dictator. In today's terms, they would call him a dictator.
Trudeau?
Cromwell. No, Cromwell.
Cromwell? Okay.
Cromwell. Today they'd call him a dictator. But I think there's a place for guys like that.
Well,
and it happens in seasons of upheaval like this where there's a constitutional crisis.
And I think there's a lot of people who agree with you on that because what they're saying is that we're not the type of people who can have good laws, so we need a dictator. Right. That's part of the argument.
yeah. I think that was the case with Cromwell.
Right.
Right.
We are the kind of people that must have a dictator. And this is, in one sense or another, we've kind of moved over to Middle East kind of standards. You know, America tried to bring whatever its democracy was, which really wasn't democracy, but maybe it was, over to Iraq. And they realized is like they broke something because the structures and the system of the people aren't made for that.
It doesn't fit that.
They are like, who's going to tell us what to do? We need a dictator. And so this is why I was bringing up the point earlier. Like there's different stages for where people are development. I think there is a maturity, a growing, a sanctification of a people that once they come to a certain point, they should be moving beyond that previous stage.
Right. And there's an immaturity too, where you bring in hundreds of thousands of immigrants who don't have a clue, and the people are getting stupider with time too. Right.
Yes.
And that's where a lot of us are at.
Yeah.
Right?
I think
the society is so broken.
But there is, you know, Trump is not a Christian. I mean, not in the sense that probably a lot of us think. He claims to be a Christian. He confesses Christianity as his religion, you know, but some of us more reformed folks probably wouldn't say so. I'm not saying me. I'm just saying I've heard.
Right.
But what he's done is proven that all it takes is a little willpower to do things, even against the liberal screams that work, that are already laws.
Oh, yeah.
And it has a massive effect on immigration.
Yeah.
Right. And this guy is
illegal immigration.
Right. Exactly.
We'll see what's going to happen with the legal.
Well,
because a lot of the stuff that we're seeing is legal.
He's even stopping some of the legal immigration that's coming through.
Yeah.
But my point is to say is that this is a man that does not have the highest standard of Christian morality publicly that we've seen. What happens over the next 20 years as God, I believe, has given us somewhat of a little gap of grace? What happens when we've developed our, 15, 20-year-old kids more and developed them higher and educated them better, classical education for us? What happens when they get into positions of leadership and power that we've been forming them for?
Yeah, we're doing that in faith, and we hope that it'll bear fruit.
You guys got people graduating from your schools, right?
Yeah, we started a school 5 years ago, and we had our first grade 12 class graduate. Yeah.
So great, man.
And so I don't think we have. Look, everybody in America is seeing the despair of where we're at, but I don't think they're taking into consideration that 3.7 million people who have been homeschooled that are coming into the system.
No, that's right.
We haven't accounted for that.
And growing.
And by the way, like I believe whatever the enemy has taken, the charismatic side of me might be coming out in a moment. I believe that the God can restore that in a shorter amount of time. Yeah. We might not have to have 150 years of marching through the institutions. We can just say no, put our foot down, be faithful, raise godly kids, and watch what happens as God blesses our faithfulness in that time. I believe Trump. Look, people are wondering whether America has repented. I'm going to tell you this. Somebody in America has been repenting because we don't deserve Trump. Like something is going on there. Right? It might not be everybody, but somebody's repenting and God is hearing somebody's prayer. So if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray, then will I hear from heaven and heal their land. I still believe that. And I don't think that we're doing those things. I don't think we were taking any of those options of prayer really seriously, along with engaging the system to know how it runs. We don't put people in the system. And that's one of the things I really appreciate that's happened since COVID. I know people who've got involved. And because of that, the systems, what was it that you tweeted the other day and somebody in the DOJ was like, you better not mess with those folks out there. What was it? Oh, it was it DOJ? It was the Troy church plant. Wasn't that what it was?
Oh, Harmeed Dillon.
Yes.
Yeah. She's the assistant to the assistant attorney general.
Since when? You know what I'm saying? Like, how did that? Where? All of a sudden, little place in Moscow nobody cares about, right down the street from Moscow.
Jacob, this is our current thing. We have a church plant in Troy, and the Troy city said they couldn't meet in downtown
because it's too close to a bar,
and there's not enough parking.
Not enough parking
in this town of like 400 people.
Yeah.
Okay, and
probably 1,000 people.
Okay, and so our elders decided that we were just going to meet anyways because we thought that was illegal. You know what they were doing. And so we've been meeting there for 2 years.
Against the city council's
against the city's rulings. But the city council has not done anything, so we've been defying them. Well, meantime, one of the elders out there fills out a little form on the Department of Justice website during Biden administration, no less. Gets a call from Biden's DOJ, and he explains what's going on, and they're like, yeah, that sounds illegal. We're going to open up an investigation.
Biden.
On your church.
Biden.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh.
So, and little old Troy, 10 miles outside town here.
Under Biden. And of course, then the transition happens, and Trump's team is even more, pro-religious freedom, and they send a letter to Troy, and I think a copied like the whole country, and we're like,
they sent the letter to every city and county in the
Troy,
U.S.
So they were in your favor or not?
Yes.
Are in our favor.
Yeah.
Well, Harmeed Dillon, who's leading it up, I was talking with her for she almost took on my case, and then she said I don't totally have the bandwidth, but if you can't find a lawyer, I'll do it for you. I'll figure it out.
Right. Yeah.
And this is when she was in San Francisco, and now she's at the DOJ, and I've been texting with her about this whole thing, and it's just, and she's actually Hindu or something.
You're right. I know. That's hilarious. She's the one that said the little Sikh prayer at the Republican National Convention. But
that's right.
But it's like, to your point. I
think
God has shown incredible mercy to us.
I believe
I think part of the reason why we're in the position we're in is, kind of similar to what Knox is saying, but like the Christians have abandoned their responsibilities all the way down to their family and raising their kids faithfully. And so how much more have we abandoned our responsibilities, even with being involved in our local city in a healthy way?
Right.
And so we've given up so much ground, at least here in America, and I'm sure you could probably say the same analysis for Canada. As Christians, we've given up so much ground here that we're just starting to get back basic functioning muscles on how to raise our kids well. Worship is central. Start schools, start Christian schools.
Get involved in your local city.
Open a business and get involved in local city politics. Those muscles we haven't been working. We've lost more than
atrophy.
The study that we reference frequently on our shows, the Southern Baptists did their own study, and I think it's 2012, so it's a little dated now, but the numbers are either the same or worse. But they found 50 to 80% of the kids were losing their faith by their freshman year in college. This is just Southern Baptist kids. How much
tragic?
Very tragic. So we've been basically you can't win a battle if you're losing 50 to 80% of your soldiers before they actually become soldiers.
Yeah,
you just can't.
Right.
So we've been doing this for how many decades now? And now we're finally getting back to the point where it's like, we need to raise our kids faithfully and not lose them. Yeah. which means
the homeschool movement,
the homeschool movement, classical Christian movement, all that stuff.
But we have to be ready for whatever God is going to do. And I think that's part of the story is we don't know what God is going to do. But we want to constantly be on our toes, getting as prepped as we possibly can, because sometimes God does raise a Joseph out of the dungeon, and he becomes a ruler of a pagan people.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes
Daniel in Babylon.
Sometimes Nebuchadnezzar calls Daniel and his friends in and says, "What do you think how should I run my empire?" And so we should not shy from that. I mean, if God grants you authority and power, then use it. And I think that's the question:
Absolutely.
Is that what Bukele is doing?
Yeah.
Is he a Daniel? Is he a Joseph?
And I'm open for it, but I'm just given what I know and what I've seen.
But I think you have to basically everyone's got to be faithful where they are, engaged where they are.
Yeah.
and then ready for whatever God sends.
Yeah, I think, if you're a missionary going over to a country that it has a king, like you're going to have to sit up there and figure out, okay, he's the ruler of the nation.
Right.
Right. And it's going to take a time.
Joseph didn't be like, well, first of all, you got to repent for being.
Yeah, of course. Like, I think we act like that there's not a progression or sanctification doesn't work its way out in real time. Of course it does. And we can't take that for granted. All right, I'll shut up, Pastor.
Fathers, you were made to lead your family, kind of like kings, and leading them to purity is your God-given responsibility. That means staying on top of the distractions, the screens, the temptations that can tear apart your home. And it starts with accountability, courageous, proactive accountability. Accountable to you, that's the word accountable. The number 2, the word you, is there to help you and your kids stay pure in the face of everything the world throws at you. Real-time monitoring of all your household devices and instant alerts that highlight any questionable activity. Don't wait till it's too late. Get accountable to you. Be the man who stands firm in the battle for purity. Lead your family with integrity and show them what it means to live a life that honors God. Learn more at Accountable to You. Again, that's the word accountable, the number 2, the word you.com/FLF. In a garden long ago,
Yes.
our first parents fell to the Dark Lord's deception, sparking a cosmic war between light and darkness. And today that battle rages in the hearts of the young, future warriors in a struggle as old as time. Dark forces cloak their lies in promises of peace, wielding imperial government schools to mold children into minions of a godless empire. Yet hope rises. Nearly 10 million kids have escaped, trained by parents in faithful Christian schools in the ways of the light. The resistance is growing, so join the rebellion this October 16th through the 18th at Rocket Town in Nashville, Tennessee. This is Fight, Laugh, Feast 2025. The theme is School Wars, rebuilding Christendom with our kids. Train the young to launch them into battle. The Spirit is with us. Christendom's war begins anew. Join Doug Wilson, Ben Merkel, David Bonson, Larry Taunton. Who else? I can't remember.
Virgil Walker. David Erb.
David Goodwin.
Yeah.
They're all going to be there. Of course,
Everyone's going to be there.
we're going to be there. So you want to register today. You want to register now. Go to fightlaughfeast.com. We will see you there. Got a song?
You're going to get Psalm.
Oh, you were waiting. I was waiting for you to go ahead and hit it off, but I guess
I was waiting for my music. There we go.
Psalm 8.
Yeah. To the chief musician upon the gittith. It's probably a tune or maybe a musical instrument. Psalm of David. O Lord, our Lord, how excellent is thy name in all the earth, who has set thy glory above the heavens. Out of the mouth of babes and sucklings hast thou ordained strength because of thine enemies, that thou mightest still the enemy and the avenger. When I consider thy heavens, the work of thy fingers, the moon and the stars, which thou hast ordained, what is man, that thou art mindful of him, and the son of man, that thou visitest him? For thou hast made him a little lower than the angels, and hast crowned him with glory and honor. Thou madest him to have dominion over the works of thy hands. Thou hast put all things under his feet, all sheep and oxen, yea, and the beasts of the field, the fowl of the air, and the fish of the sea, and whatsoever passeth through the paths of the seas. O Lord, our Lord, how excellent is thy name in all the earth. I just want to make 2 brief points today about this really well-known psalm. First of all, this psalm is about Jesus. I think it can be tempting to think that it is really only about Adam. And while Adam was certainly a preview and a prophetic type of Christ, Adam didn't have any enemies or avengers until he sinned. And when he sinned, he lost a significant amount of his dominion, and he certainly lost his crown of glory and honor. Who's this talking about? This is talking about a man who fights enemies from the womb as a nursing infant, who has been crowned with glory and honor, and who has all things under his feet. That's Jesus. Hebrews 2 actually explicitly says this is talking about Jesus. He was made a little lower than the angels. It says, for the suffering and death of the cross, that he, by the grace of God, should taste death for every man, that through death he might destroy him that had the power of death, that is the devil, and deliver them who through fear of death were all their lifetime subject to bondage. Hebrews 2:9 and verse 14 and 15. Because he has done this, Jesus has been given the name that is above every name. How majestic is his name in all the earth. He must reign until all his enemies are put beneath his feet. 1 Corinthians 15. We do not yet see all things under his feet, but Hebrews says we see Jesus. And then here's the second point. This psalm teaches us how God fights his enemies. This kind of fits with our topic today. He comes with the confidence and glee of childlike faith. He literally came as a child, a crying infant. And from his first infant cries in this world, the darkness was already beginning to flee. He came as a boy who got lost in the festival crowd and was found 3 days later running circles around the priests and scribes in the temple. He came with the childlike joy of turning water into wine, turning over tables of greed, and walking on water in the middle of a storm just because he could. He came to play with dragons and poisonous snakes, but enough about the Pharisees. He came to tame lions and bears and teach them to play nice with lambs and calves. He played chicken with the devil himself and went down into the grave. And on the third day he rose with a childlike life and energy that will never run out. And he calls us to run with him. He calls us to live the adventurous life with him. If his childish cries silenced enemies, so do the children's noises in your worship service.
Yes.
They're not distractions. They're some of your greatest weapons. If God came down as a boy, as a baby, as a childlike man to spoil the devil in his kingdom of darkness, then God is determined to do that with an army of saints that have entered the kingdom like children. You cannot be part of his army unless you humble yourself and believe and obey like a kid. You have to be up for that kind of adventure, for suspense, for the unknown. You have to be willing to give up everything in order to gain glory. It means wonder and awe. It means laughter and playfulness. It means mission and ambition, seeking glory for the King. And above all, it means living fearless of death because our King has already conquered death. And now it's just the last roller coaster before breaking out into the best adventures of eternity. O Lord, our Lord, how majestic is your name in all the earth.
Amen.
Amen.
Cheers to the
Cheers
king.
to the king.
Cheers to the king.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Yep.
Yeah. Cheers them with water. That's wrong. That's wrong.
The scotch is all gone.
Jacob, thank you for joining us, brother.
Yeah,
I'm
appreciate it.
excited to come
Pleasure.
back.
It's always a slice.
If we put those tariffs up, it gets you over here, doesn't it? I like that. If you're single, get married. If you're married, have you some kids. If you have kids, go baptize them. Until tomorrow, love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. Go fight, laugh, and feast. This is CrossPolitic.